So, whenever you guys are ready, could you explain what you've built?
Yeah, so we created Snake Game. We just wanted to create a cool retro game. We originally created it to have a linked list and our struct for what a snake would be, but this actually led to issues when we were trying to allocate space when you would add on a node. So then we had to upgrade it so that it had an array at the very beginning that would create our maximum amount of nodes that you could have. And so then when you add on a tail, it allocates from that array and adds on a new tail. And then we have our recursive follow function that will go through each node of the snake. Or I guess I should say what the snake looks like. And so the snake, each node of it will just go to its previous, its leading snake node and get all of the directions and values from that. Yeah.
Cool. So you're not doing any dynamic memory allocation at all?
No.
Everything, we have the maximum possible number. Like if you play a perfect game,
Yeah.
we have that all allocated, and then we just link them together. Like the game logic is based on linked list, but all the memory is based on array.
Gotcha.
And then with that, more of the game logic is everything is a grid. Even there's a game mode where we don't show the grid, but we decided not to use really accurate positions like we did with the Boyd's lab, for example. And so kind of everything just has a grid position, and that's kind of projected onto the screen. It's multiplied or added to for depending on whatever you're displaying. And so that makes the collision super easy. So any collision is just comparing two ints. And the collision with the snake, we just kind of go through whatever's linked in the snake and just compare all those ints. So right now, if we wanted to collide with the snake, it's only comparing maybe 20 ints.
Okay, so you just collided with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we save your high score. So if we beat it this round, it'll update it, or if we don't beat it, it won't update it.
Okay.
Can you get one of those things that's in the corner?
Yeah, the score's up there in the corner.
Do you mean can we get the snake into the corner, or can we get the apples?
Can you grab the apple that's in the corner? Can you turn fast enough?
Oh,
Yeah.
you could.
Ooh, did you just go diagonally?
It's because I went around too fast, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is a glitch where sometimes the button inputs will happen at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a feature.
Yeah.
It's a feature.
Another feature related to the buttons is if the user puts in too many opposing directions within one frame, we just kind of penalize them and just ignore all their directions.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't go up right now.
Yeah, that's one important feature that we had to add because that's part of the snake rule set where you can't go back into yourself
Sure.
if you're going in a certain direction. So we just made it so that if you're going down, you just can't go in the parallel direction.
Sure. And then your control interface here is for push buttons?
Yes.
Okay.
It's,
We had ordered other buttons, but they
Yeah.
never came.
Yeah, we want to use some circular arcade ones that were nice and colorful.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would be a
and fit
future
the retro.
improvement.
Sure. Sure.
And then we have another game mode.
Oh, yeah.
So if you press up on the button, it'll send you to the hard mode, and this removes the grid completely, and then also adds some blocking or wall elements every time you eat 2 apples. So that's by the black square. So if you run into the black square, it'll send you to game over.
I'm gonna get one more.
Like we saw before. And also a feature that we have for both game modes is that every 5 apples that you eat, your speed will slowly increase by around 10%. So once you reach a score of around 20, your snake is going quite fast and it's a lot hard to control.
Okay.
And yeah, we added the hard mode because we're looking at some other modern versions of Snake, and they have a lot of different rule sets if you want to play something that's not the original version. So we just wanted to add that as a function to sort of try to mix it up, try to add some more functionality to the game. Also in the future, if we had time to continue working on it, we were planning to add some sound effects to the game so that there'd be a chomp sound effect whenever you hit an apple, and then a game over 1 second sound effect da 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 whenever you ended the game.
Okay.
But we were very close to implementing it. We were not able to finish it before now. But yeah, that's definitely a thing that we want to do in the future.
Okay.
And then one challenge, or one of the many challenges that we faced throughout coding, was getting the reset functionality to work correctly. What that entailed was first clearing the whole board, either in a checkerboard pattern or the fully blue screen in the hard mode. So that required us to able to allocate every color correctly, and then also when we erase the old snake tail so that it can like move and propagate downwards, we're coloring it the correct color right behind it. So that just made sure like we knew exactly what the snake position was, and then by using like our grid algorithm, we're able to color the correct color right behind the snake.
Okay, so eating an apple extends the tail
Yeah.
one further behind. Okay.
And then in terms of actually resetting the snake, we always reset it back to an original length of 3. So that includes the snake head and then 2 tails. So when we start the game, we spawn the snake head, and then we call our like add tail function twice, right at the very beginning before you eat any apples. And then when you do eat an apple, we call the add tail function once, and then we increment the score. But then when we reset here after game over, we were struggling to find out how to go back to this original 3 length, because it was sort of hard to delink our linked list, and also make sure that none of the tails were being redrawn, or they didn't have like ghost hitboxes that we'd accidentally crash into and die even though we couldn't see them. So we accomplished this by setting the snake head back to being equal to the tail, and this essentially completely delinks the snake head from the rest of the linked list. And since it's all created in memory beforehand, we're not really running into any like memory issues, because once we start adding more tails like we are right now in the second life, it'll just keep rewriting over that allocated memory space.
Okay.
And then in order to restart again with the 3 length snake, we just add the 2 tails right as we restart the screen to go back to the 3 length snake. So yeah, that's the basic functionality of our game.
Very cool.
Anything else to add? Oh, I guess when we were adding the walls in the hard mode, those black squares, we tried to reuse our code for the apple generation, but it was sort of difficult because for the apple, we can only have 1 apple on the screen at once. So we had to sort of treat the wall elements as being both an apple and a snake, in which we had to check that we'd also have an array of blocks, or of wall blocks, and then we have to go through the entire array and see if the snake head bounced into any of those blocks.
Okay.
Because when we first tried to implement it, we realized that it would only collide with the newest block that was spawned, and the old blocks were sort of just like ghost elements that the snake could just pass through and not get penalized for going through. So that was an important thing. And then the blocks also had a similar issue with you having to reset the game properly and set the number of blocks in the array back to 0. So yeah, those are just some challenges that we had, but other than that, we think that we could accomplish a pretty nice looking arcade style game, which was the goal going into it.
Yeah, very nice. It looks like a
Oh my gosh.
very faithful implementation of Snake.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah, we
So
also,
I've
yeah.
seen once or twice. I've seen it reset in the middle of.
It's because I clicked the buttons too fast.
Okay.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because the
crashing?
button, I guess, it was like, you're going through the buttons input too fast before you drew the snake. So it's like,
So then,
if you go back on yourself, you're gonna die. So I guess that kind of happened with the buttons.
Yeah,
but
I
you
think
just
there's
didn't
some,
see it
like,
with the snake.
I
something that we're missing
Yeah.
where there's
So-
like some
Gotcha.
space where you can
Some-
accidentally put in 2 inputs
I was
at
trying
once.
not to do
Okay.
that, but yeah.
It doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
I've seen it just twice. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
our reason for making the whole screen blue for our like quote unquote hard mode was that we assumed that it would be sort of harder to not have the grid pattern to move and like see where the apple is. So our hard mode just makes it like a solid color, so it's sort of hard to predict if like the apple's very far away on the screen. It makes it a little bit harder. You have to like control the snake with more fine
Right.
motor skills than having the turquoise or the cyan and blue checkerboard screen.
Very nice.
Oh, and then also, every time we spawn a block in an apple, we are just checking that they're not spawning on top of the snake, which adds some computation complexity to it, because we have to iterate through all the all the snake elements and make sure that they don't collide before the apple spawns or the block spawns. So that was just something extra that we had to add in. also in terms of like future stuff that we want to do was potentially like using some kind of like a bitmap to make just like add more textures to the game, or like make the apple actually look sort of like an apple rather than just a red square, or like give the snake head maybe some eyes or something.
Sure.
So that could have like made it a little bit more polished. But I think the retro themes definitely fits with the whole grid idea.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you.